Hi, this is the authors of Growing Up Aspen have started a second season podcast called Movie Chat, where we talk with some of our fellow students in the industry and talk about films and all kinds of fun things. Today we are here with Ben Ball, who is an environmental designer, sculpturist, and has did a little stint with movie set designs and worked on The Matrix. So let's catch up with Ben. There's a difference, and we did talk to Adam about this, and that is there's a difference between when someone is making a feature film on $5 million with their buddies versus Goodwill Hunting, funded by a big industry, Hollywood industry. And then the next thing you know is that director after Goodwill Hunting is it's always going to be sort of like a Goodwill Hunting thing. They can't get back to their little buds working in the shop that they had, because the studios won't let that happen. So you never can really go back. And I feel like there's a grittiness to an edge when people were scraping to make things, to be creative. And then once you have
But they're going to be scraping to make things with AI too. And they're going to be there's going to be AI films that are made, on a shoestring with AI, with maybe the least advanced uh, release of any AI system, and that's just going to become a feature. The maybe the awkwardness of that will just become a feature of the film, in the way that Japanese uh, uh, stop motion animation monster movies, have a kind of charming quality in hindsight. They may not be as, at the time they weren't as advanced as what Hollywood could produce, but in hindsight, they kind of have the same rawness, and
Yeah.
they have a rawness and an awkwardness, and it's and a that becomes like a feature of the kind of defining quality of
Yeah.
what they're like. And I think that that's true of any kind of technology applied to creative endeavors. Is when the technology when the work is so dependent upon technology. In fact, it wouldn't have even been maybe conceived without a certain technology. That kind of work risks becoming kitsch, or becoming um, you know overly identified with a particular era or particular epoch, because it's so tied to technology. That happens in design, it happens in music, it happens in film, it happens in sculpture. It's just how what happens when technology gets too married to art,
I just
Well,
I
see it.
think.
I just see
apply
it as
that
another. I just see it as another tool. It's just a
apply
different.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
to the
yeah,
matrix, when I think we talked about before the bullet time and a lot of those other effects that they used. I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Well,
yeah,
yeah, that was physical though. That technology was physical. It had like 20 or 30 cameras and around in a circle and him in the center doing
Yeah.
his stuff. And so they just went from picture to picture to picture all the way around as you saw. So that ended up becoming it's a physical, not a technology. And I feel
Well,
like
but the
physical
technology was in the ability to time the cameras to take the
and stream
shots
it
right at
together.
the
Yeah,
right
that's
time.
that's true. But yeah, I
But
mean,
the end result, and Ben, you could probably talk to this with, in the set design behind that. I mean, where's the marriage between those two, or are they completely separate? Integrating the technological effects that they used in the Matrix with the more, I mean, maybe I'm assuming more standardized set design and things like that. Like, for example, in Bullet Time, when they had the timing of the cameras, all of that was shot. I think it was around a green screen, and then they
yeah,
mapped that onto
yeah. Yeah.
onto the sets.
Yeah. Sure. And but that effect, the bullet time effect, has become a kind of it's kind of it's sort of the signature of that era, right? Like it's kind of
Yeah.
early. It's sort of like I mean, it's still used. It's still part of the vocabulary of filmmaking. It is now. It's just part of the regular vocabulary of filmmaking. It's just become
Right, but every time you see
you
it,
see
you
the
think of, but every time you see it, you think of the Matrix, you
Well,
know?
you think of the Matrix. I think of the Matrix, but a kid who was born in 2000 doesn't.
Right,
So,
right.
so the it's and in the Matrix they did a good job of making it like it was pretty seamless, right? Like it
Right.
meshed nicely with real looking photography, and it didn't have a kind of fakiness about it that so it I don't know, it 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 I it was used so extensively in that movie that yeah, you do kind of like when I haven't looked at those films in a long time, but it does feel a little bit like, ooh, wow, gee whiz, look at this, like they're yeah, they're over they're using what they're there's a point where it becomes more about the demonstration of the technology and like getting the gee whiz out of the audience than it is about using it to propel the story really
Yeah.
forward, right?
Right, right. That's where I feel like the difference between the creatives and the studios. The studios use the whiz bang, and the creatives use it to enhance the story. That's sort of what I
Yeah,
feel like. It's hurry up, quick, get it out, make money, move.
yeah, yeah,
And that's why people like Tarantino are like, no, 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 I'm going to do it my way. you know?
yeah,
So I feel like Kubrick was like that too. Kubrick kind of moved to his own tune. Coen brothers, they moved to their own tune. They
right.
don't they don't really let people shove them around. Thanks for listening. We the authors of Growing Up Aspen would like to thank you, and would like to also thank the Aspen Times and the Aspen Daily News for giving us materials for our book, Growing Up Aspen: Adventures of the Unsupervised, which you can get at twistandturnpress.com and any local bookstore. Thanks.